Thank you, friends. Shabbat Shalom. I know I'm a little bit later than usual, but as they say, better late than never, and it is always great to see you. And greetings to you all. I hope you're all having an awesome New Year. Just began, but a lot has been happening already. And we've talked about some changes you may have begun to notice. And you will notice more and more as you read on in this great book of freedom. And from here on in, it's all about freedom. We truly are in that transition point we talked the last time, and it really is a new wide-angle lens through which the characters and the events are seen. The man Moses remains somewhat distant from us. But even if we had never read these great 5 books before, we know that he is the focus from here on in. Can you imagine how it must feel to be the one chosen person, the only person through whom God will now introduce himself to the rest of the people? How does it feel to be on your own with no distinction home, no direction home, like a complete unknown? The man Moses, the great prophet, had been away from home for 40 years before he went back to Egypt. And as we said, we never get the sense of intimate acquaintance with his inner life, and his distinctive traits of personality as the confidant of God remains distant and just out of our reach. We have reached a watershed moment in the Torah, my friends. The plagues are about to begin. Welcome to Va'ira, and I appeared. What a fantastic opening. What a fantastic introduction this parsha has. Exodus 6:3, my friends. V'dabar Elohi el Moshe. And God spoke to Moses and said to him, I am Yahweh. Ani Yahweh. I am he who caused to be. What a statement, what an introduction, what a name. Just like a few weeks ago, one of the most emotional scenes in the entire Torah, when Joseph revealed himself to his brothers. Ani Yosef. I am Joseph. Now, Ani Yahweh. I am God. I am his, you are his, you are me, and we are all together, and we are all together. Names have meaning, and what a meaning. I am he who caused to be. Need anything else be said? God tells us he appeared to the patriarchs as El Shaddai, and that they did not know him as Yahweh, even though we had read that name already. A typo, perhaps? A clue as to when certain parts were written or edited? To us, the name God isn't a name. It's a title, a concept, which we assign meaning to. As John Lennon said, God is a concept by which we measure our pain. Perhaps that song was truer than we would have liked to believe. I don't need to tell you, there has been more death and destruction in the name of God than probably from anything else. What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. Perhaps God was known by what he needed the people at each time to know him as or by. Sometimes we're not ready for everything. In the pre-Diluvian age, in the Noahic covenant, as seen in Genesis 9:8-9, God is called Elohim, a name we're comfortable with. In the Abrahamic covenant, in Genesis 17:1, God is known as El Shaddai, a name we're not quite as familiar with. But the covenant that he will be made with this generation at Sinai, the epiphany for the wilderness generation, and with us, will be with the use of the name Yahweh, which we say is Adonai, or God, which we will see in Exodus 22. This is the name we have known him by ever since. But does that mean that some future generation won't be given a new name? When and if God reappears. Friends, as seen in Exodus 6:7, the theme of Exodus, and in effect the rest of the Torah, is and I shall take you to me as a people, and I shall become your God. And you'll know that I am Yahweh your God, who is bringing you out from under Egypt's burdens. Do not forget, the future of God's revelations is built on, I brought you out of Egypt, not I created the world and everything in it. Moses speaks to the people, and they do not listen. And he says to God that they didn't listen, so why would Pharaoh? Here, the children of Israel didn't listen to me. And how will Pharaoh listen to me? And I'm uncircumcised of lips. I thought this was an amazing comment. And I wondered, was it tied into being heavy of tongue and mouth? It's the third reference to circumcision. We know that later there's that strong image criticizing the people who understand that their covenant requires circumcision of the skin that covers the penis. But then we're told about the circumcision of the heart, because they don't appreciate that they must likewise remove the impediment to their hearts. The heart, the seat of emotion, the seat of understanding, and the gateway which allowed women into the covenant. But there is nothing about this strange reference to uncircumcised lips. And I wondered whether it was Moses saying that circumcised lips do not filter. They speak truth, and he is either still afraid or disbelieving or too humble to accept his role. And when he has that gift of conviction, he will be circumcised of lips. And we will watch that development as we watch his relationship with God unfold. It stands as a metaphor and suggests not merely incapacity of speech, but a kind of ritual lack of fitness for this sacred task. Now there's another Toldot, genealogy of Moses and Aaron and others, and it demonstrates certain connections and certain precedents, which we can talk about at another time. Leading to Moses meeting with Pharaoh. And friends, the setup in Exodus 6:30 is fascinating, simply fascinating. We will be told so much in the next few verses that have repercussions throughout the rest of the Torah, and some things that, even though they are stated on numerous occasions, we philosophically and dogmatically choose to ignore. And Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, I am Yahweh. Speak to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, everything that I speak to you. And Moses said in front of Yahweh, here, I'm uncircumcised of lips, and how will Pharaoh listen to me? And Yahweh said to Moses, see, I've made you a god to Pharaoh, and Aaron your brother will be your prophet. And I'll harden Pharaoh's heart, and I'll multiply my signs and my wonders in the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh won't listen to you. And I'll set my hand in Egypt and bring out my masses, my people, the children of Israel, from the land of Egypt with great judgments. And Egypt will know that I am Yahweh when I reach out my hand on Egypt, and I'll bring out the children of Israel from among them. Look at the incredible things that verse says. Again, we have the uncircumcised of lips comment, followed by God saying he has made Moses a god to Pharaoh, and Aaron, Moses' prophet. Wow, what an amazing thing to have said. And friends, there is so little written on such a powerful statement. And God states, that he's doing this to make himself known. And then we're told Moses was 80 years old and Aaron was 83 years old when they spoke to Pharaoh. Friends, it is never too late to realize your destiny. And then one of the most glossed over comments in the Torah is God tells us that he's going to prevent Pharaoh from complying. Now, I'm not saying Pharaoh was a nice guy. I've known some pretty horrid pharaohs in my time. But his free will is being suspended. You will read that he is prepared again and again to let the Israelites go, but God does not let him. God hardens his heart. Exodus 7:3. I, on my part, shall harden Pharaoh's heart, that I may multiply my signs and my portents in the land of Egypt. and Pharaoh will not heed you. I've always said that perhaps the greatest gift we have is free will. And here we see it taken away. Why? Without Pharaoh's resistance, God would not have the opportunity to deploy his great wonders and so demonstrate his insuperable power in history and the emptiness of the power attributed to the gods of Egypt. And friends, God has told us that the point to all of this is he will make himself known by what he will do now. And three different verbs are used in the story for the action on or in Pharaoh's heart. Hiksha, to harden. Chizek, to toughen. Or in other contexts, actually just earlier, it was to strengthen. And kaved, literally, to be heavy, which in English suggests sorrow. And together the force of all three idioms is to be stubborn, unfeeling, and arrogantly inflexible. The plagues are about to begin. God tells Moses what to say, and he is to say, Yahweh said this, by this you'll know that I am Yahweh. By these plagues that are about to take place. And so it begins. And you know what, friends, this is probably most people's favorite part of the Passover Seder. When you dip your knife in wine and spill the drops on the plate, as you say. First, blood. Number 2, frogs. 3, lice. 4, insect swarm. In Hebrew, it's arov, horde. The 5th, livestock epidemic. The 6th was boils. And friends, the boils arise from furnace ash. Interesting. The only previous use of this word was regarding the smoke from the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. And it becomes a harbinger of the future. Its next mention is on Sinai with the Epiphany and with the Decalogue. And it transforms a fear into a promise. And it is never used again in the Torah. But every time I read this, it rings forward thousands of years to the furnaces of the German death camps. The 7th, the final one in this parsha, hail. And Exodus 9:24 tells us, and there was a very heavy hail, with fire flashing in the midst of the hail, the like of which there had never been in all of the land of Egypt from the time it became a nation. That is a long time, and that is some hail. And again, pay attention to what is said. Before releasing it, God tells that he has done this to make himself known to all the earth. And in fact, I established for you this purpose, for the purpose of showing you my power. And in order to tell my name in all the earth. What a way to be known. There's got to be better ways to be known. There's a shift in thinking and a shift in the presentation of the deity, not as creator, but as liberator. That, my friends, is personal. Creation is not, but we can, each of us, feel liberation, as we are supposed to do when we celebrate the Passover every year. I am the Lord your God, who takes you out from under the burdens of Egypt. This idea is emphasized again and again in the Torah, as well as in the later books of the Bible. It is the cornerstone of Israelite faith, that God has proven his divinity and his special attachment to Israel by the dramatic act of liberating the people from Egyptian slavery. As that great line from me and Bobby McGee goes, freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose, and nothing ain't worth nothing, but it's free. Friends, we can't lose freedom. And is freedom just another word for nothing left to lose? Or does it rank right up there with air to breathe, water to drink, food, and shelter? We have seen and survived the first 7 plagues, and we were told, so as to show you my power, and so that my name will be told throughout all the earth. Here we are given an emphatic summary of the theological rationale for the elaborate and excruciating sequence of plagues. The God of Israel is above all a God of history. His unrivaled supremacy as God is manifested by his powerful acts in the arena of history. The Exodus story is conceived as an establishing of the credentials of the God of Israel for all humanity, and hence his awesome power has to be demonstrated in one plague after another. And Pharaoh's repeated resistance is a required condition of that demonstration. Sit back as we begin the journey to freedom, where the man of water meets the God of flame. And friends, aren't we more concerned with our freedom and well-being and happiness than with the creation of matter? Isn't the history of the world told in stories of freedom? How many years can a mountain exist before it's washed to the sea? How many years can some people exist before they're allowed to be free? Thank you all for joining me. Love you all. Live free, be free, and honor your freedom. Be well, be happy, and be blessed. Share and honor the light in all who live in the light. Shine on brightly. Continue to have a wonderful year. Pray for peace in Europe, and end to terror, and end to hatred, and continue to live a life of peace and harmony. Thank you. See you all next time. Bless you all. Shabbat Shalom. Be well. Thank you.